Did you know that it is scientifically proven that the thing that people love to talk about the most is themselves? Well, here I go again. Hey guys, it's Amy here, back again with another video. We've got another installment of the Forever First Draft series coming back at you guys. For those unaware, here's how it works. You take 5 stories that you come up with. You explain what got you interested in the ideas and developing them, but then you also need to explain why those particular story ideas end up getting abandoned and becoming Forever First Drafts. This is a challenge open to any and all author-tubers out there. Go at it as many times as you want. I know I've got like at least 4 other videos in this series coming at you, so. And this is the second in the series. In my last episode, I talked about my preteen Forever First Drafts and the stories that I came up with then during intermediate and early high school. And now we're going more into my high school days. I've got like 2 parts for like proper high school stories, and this is the first. As I was reading longer novels at the time, I found that there was more ideas that I was willing to develop and showcase based on the kinds of ideas I was coming up with and reading. And here they are. Wait! Before you do that, you need to subscribe to my channel and ring that bell. I post new videos every weekend on writing, books, and digital content for authors. Do you like fantasy books with action, blood feuds, and other worlds with strong female protagonists? Then you should pick up my book down in the description, ASTER'S CODA Exposure. It is the first book in an ongoing 5-part series surrounding Abby Tacker's life as she deals with an otherworldly blood feud, and she's the one destined to finish it. It was one book that I could never leave as a Forever First Draft. But here are 5 that I did. This one I briefly mentioned in my video about writing as an asexual, but I will go into more depth about it here. I was really into the cyberpunk futuristic look of sci-fi, and I wanted to make some kind of novel surrounding that. This was interesting for me up until a point. In this cyberpunk world, it was fashion to have implants, like different limbs, different cybernetic eyes, even if you didn't need them for medical purposes. And there were even ones that could enhance the abilities of what humans could do. Some of these included strength, sight, and agility. But our hero wasn't really interested. I cannot remember her name, but I remember that she had curly blue hair and that she was a therapist, psychiatrist working alongside the police department in order to help out families who had lost loved ones and check in on their mental health. And then she got into an accident, and the only way she could be kept alive was having a lot of her body implanted. This got the chief of police interested because there was a certain criminal out there who was killing people and evading them. And the only way that they thought they'd be able to stop them was with these new cybernetic implants, which were forced upon this main character. Because the way that these particular people were being killed by this person was there was some form of virus getting into these implants and killing them. However, our hero's implants had some kind of antivirus, which explains the name of the title. Also, I didn't realize how much I actually developed that idea to that point. Aside from the fact that the reason that the hero succeeds is because of her asexuality and how that was a bad portrayal of asexuality, there were a few other things that stopped me from actually turning this into a novel. I think I just got bored of it because I had no idea how to write murder mystery. Never read it, clearly never wrote it. So while an aesthetic can be a good starting point for stories, it is not good enough, at least in my eyes, to further develop them unless you have something very solid. Plot and characters are the way to go for me. Anybody who has read ASTER'S CODA Exposure already knows who Jada and Kyrie are. Though it is not mentioned yet in the novels, they got separated from their little sister when they were very young, and this is their little sister's story. Zail got split up from her sisters in the middle of a conflict, and she knocked on every door in the new city that she ended up traveling to try and find somebody to take her in. There was one family that did end up doing so, and she said that she was indebted to them. That debt ended up being an arranged marriage with a son around her age. Skip ahead a few years and then she gets married, but then there's a bunch of debt that the family has. and she still feels guilty towards that family was taking care of her, and so to do that, she leaves home and ventures across the continent, I don't remember exactly which, to try and find a way to make some more money for her family. I came up with this story after I read A Thousand Splendid Suns by Khaled Hosseini. It was for English class, it was pretty okay. I thought that Middle Eastern cultures should be represented a bit more in a fantasy setting, but in retrospect, the way that I did that, I think was a little bit offensive. It was very, very much Oriental. Every time I come up with a fantasy setting based a little bit around another culture, I become very paranoid nowadays that I'm not just turning it Oriental or cultural appropriating it. But back when I was 16, I don't think I fully understood what cultural appropriation was. Furthermore, this had a sagging middle syndrome. I knew how I wanted it to start, I knew how I wanted it to end, but coming up with the middle was very, very hard for me. I had the burger buns, but I didn't have the meat and salad in the middle. So that was a flop. This was initially based off a fanfiction that I wrote, in entirety mind you, but then the story decided to evolve into something a little bit more original as I was writing it, and I thought to make it completely original, albeit I made it very generic. I think the protagonist of this novel, she was a girl called Billy Everill. She was a high school dropout and a black belt. In what? I didn't know. I didn't research or develop it. I knew nothing about martial arts. She gets caught up in this spy mission and ends up helping two of these dudes out. One of them ends up being their love interest, like enemies to lovers style, I think it was. And whoa, she gets recruited after that. Who'd have thought? Yeah, that is very unrealistic. But then she realizes that she was recruited because she's got some family involvement in the middle of all this, which included her dad and her ex, and that she may be the key to solving this whole situation, whatever this whole situation was. As you can tell, it is so generic that I'm gonna vomit. Furthermore, I decided that I didn't want to write this because I already completed writing the fanfiction version of this story. I couldn't bother rewriting it in an almost identical form. Phew. The reason that this one didn't work for me was because the genre and the setting didn't quite appeal to me the more I developed it. However, I have set it up and I am going to be writing it as a vintage science fantasy urban thing, and a series as well. Bandits kill this girl's parents, and then somehow she gets connected to these brothers who are the godchildren of the royal alchemist who makes like magic guns and shit. And these sons are being trained to use these magic guns and other alchemical things to become vigilantes. The girl wants in on this and trains with them, but she was kind of lagging behind them. And somehow that ended with her assassinating the corrupt king. I don't know how. I think it was another case of sagging middle. Frankly, I just wanted an excuse to incorporate a character that I used in text-based RPs into a story. Her name was Echo. She had a different name for this particular fantasy western world. And the reason I chose fantasy western was because we didn't really see western a lot, especially not in the fantasy genre, and so I wanted to combine the two and see how it would work. Clearly the narrative that surrounded it didn't quite work. But that is okay. Echo is going to be written into a far more cohesive story, which I think is going to get bestseller status because of how unique it is. That's not saying that I'm like thinking it's better than ASTER'S CODA, because I still very much love ASTER'S CODA, but this series that I'm going to be writing, which the working series title is called Maledicts, I think it's going to be like so unique and so refreshing, probably in like 10 years or so. I think I came up with this idea while I was watching the first season of Miraculous Ladybug. This may have been set in the same universe and was a TV series idea instead, and it's so vague that I'm basically plucking at straws to work out what was going on. So what have we got? We've got these teen vigilantes using these technology that has a bunch of animal themes to save little crime things that are going on around London. South London, I think. One was a male and he had eagle-themed technology, so these big mechanical wings, which I have no idea how they actually worked, and then these goggles that gave him like bird's eye view night vision sort of thing. And then the girl, she was cheetah-themed. Wait, Wait, did Wonder Woman 84 steal that idea from me? She had boots that gave her some super speed, and then she had Wolverine-like claws. I think more characters were meant to be introduced in the series as it went on, but I only came up with those two. And I think those two were siblings. Maybe they were in a relationship? I don't know. They definitely weren't both. I'm looking at you, Cassandra Clare. But yeah, it was another one of those stories where I thought it was cool, but I did absolutely nothing to develop it beyond that. It wasn't a story I really wanted to tell. I think that's like a basis for a lot of my unfinished stories, is that it's a cool concept, but it's not something that I truly want to tell, like I do with ASTER'S CODA, Maledicts, and more. Feel free to join in with the Forever First Drafts challenge. Please let me know by tagging me on Instagram, hitting me up on YouTube or whatever, and saying that you have done this video yourself. I'm gonna have a full playlist dedicated to this. And in another 3 months, there's probably going to be another installment of this. But thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you are new around here. Ring that bell so you can find out when I post more creative content. As I mentioned 1,000 times during this video, ASTER'S CODA exposure, not a Forever First Draft. You can buy it now in the description. Follow Abby Taka as she faces her family's worst enemy in a blood feud that spans across 3 worlds. And be sure to check me out down in the description on Instagram, TikTok, Fiverr, and my website. Stay creative, everybody, and I'll see you in the next video.